So this is my reflection for the Module 3 Web 2.0. And unfortunately, I waited until the last night to actually record my reflection. So when I logged into the website, I was no longer able to see the exact questions that were needing to be answered. But I do believe I've remembered from looking at it previously in the week, and fingers crossed I've got all my information here. So the first thing that we need to talk about is to describe my thoughts about the video, how the internet has driven change. So the big obvious one to me is with the evolution of technology that I'm able to be an online student. If I didn't have that option, I wouldn't be working towards my degree right now. I work full-time and I have 3 kiddos. There's no way I could sit in a classroom 5 nights a week or even 3 nights a week and still be able to keep up with being a mom and my job. So I am so thankful for that evolution and the opportunity that that gives. Another thing that I find useful is with networking and communication. One of the good things is, going back to being a student, websites that talk about different professors and their teaching styles, or as a student coming in or enrolling in classes, you can look up that type of information to see if maybe there's a professor that fits your personality better or what you're looking for in a teaching style. Of course, that can also be bad if there's people that just get upset and lie about things, but usually you can have a pretty good sense of those things and weed it out. And then, of course, with the online bullying, that just seems to be something that's kind of fresh in my mind right now because it's happening at the elementary school that my daughter goes to, and I find that really sad. It makes it easier for people to be mean to each other because there's no instant accountability. They can say whatever they want on the screen, and then, maybe something will be done about it later. Hopefully, something will be done about it later. So definitely pros and cons, just like with anything else in life. So let me scroll down through my notes here. So do I relate any of those messages, and what implications do those messages have for you as a future teacher? Well, I feel that technology as a future teacher is important because it's helping us to keep our students current as they go out into the world and into their jobs and different careers. But really, if we're being super honest, most of the time when I have a question about technology, I can ask my children or my students at school, and they know more about it than I do. I think that as an educator, on our part, we need to make sure that they know how to use the relevant technology as far as, Word. Do they understand how to build a resume and a cover letter and, different things that maybe aren't things that they're keeping up with just because it's socially cool. So I feel like that's where we jump in as educators, and that becomes important. So for the podcast that I listened to the 10-Minute Teacher podcast, and it was season 5, and it was an episode that was talking about revealing the heart to break through to the unreachable students, which I loved because I work with kiddos in a BD environment, and they are generally the ones that are listed as unreachable, which makes me sad because it's totally not the case, but it just takes a little more time, effort, and trust for them to feel comfortable reaching back. So one of the things that stood out to me that I actually will talk to my students about tomorrow is the yet word. So for them, there are so many things that seem out of reach and out of control because their environments are usually pretty tumultuous and they don't feel like they have a control over a lot of things. Typically, a lot of our students have been in and out of residential care, hospitals, foster care, different environments, and sometimes with so much shifting, not sometimes, most of the time, with so much shifting in their environment, educational things can fall through the cracks. Picking up and leaving off this school to that school and this place to that place. So they don't always have the most confidence in their academics. So I think being able to say, hey, that's okay. You're not there yet, but you will get there. And so going through and finding out what those yet statements are for them is an awesome idea that we will definitely look into. Okay. How did the podcast that I listened to or describe it, and which ways it can help me, this technology can help me as a future educator? I see podcasts being beneficial kind of twofold. I see them being beneficial as a teacher for this very example, like the one I listen to right now. It helped to give me ideas and strategies that I can use in the classroom as an educator. And then also it's something that we can play for our students, and that just gives them a different type of technology that's available for learning. I think that it is important to use, so many different styles of teaching so that everybody's getting something, and then you can really figure out what works best for each of your students. Should social media like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram be allowed in the educational environment? I feel a big strong no to this one, because with the exception of YouTube, because the only thing I've witnessed with my students is that social media is a distraction to them. I've never seen it being something that would be beneficial or for a way of them to learn about anything that some other form of technology couldn't teach them. Obviously, YouTube has a plethora of videos that are super convenient and can be educational or even entertaining, because sometimes you just need those brain breaks. But I think that needs to be controlled by the teacher. And, students like to say, oh, I have this video that we can watch, but if it hasn't been previewed, that may not always be the best idea either. So I think that YouTube is definitely a good idea, as long as there's a adult in charge of that media. So I believe that is all. Thank you.